Thank you all for coming to the final round of the Stine Speaking Showcase. My name is Terry Easley Geraldo, and I'm the chair of the Communication Studies Department. So our event is named after Dr. Dick Stine, a beloved professor in our department who retired in spring of 2008 after 37 years here at Johnson County Community College. He was the founder of our debate team that he coached for 20 years and is on the JCCC Wall of Honor. He was an innovator in our field, and he was actually one of the very first to do a speech grading software, like back in the 90s, like, the 1900s, before that was a big thing. His passion for oral communication and for helping students strengthen their speaking skills continues to inspire us today, and we are honored to have this showcase named after him. Before we get into these awesome student presentations that we are excited for, I have to thank many people that made this event possible. First, I have to give a huge shout out to my amazing partner in planning this event, Kayla Todd. Kayla, give a wave. I get to work alongside Kayla to pull everything together, and let me tell you, she is a superhero. She runs the tabulation, keeps all the communication with the students, and helps me keep all the moving parts go very smoothly. It wouldn't go as smoothly as it does without her, so thank you, Kayla, you're incredible. Next, I want to give a big thank you to the Communication Studies faculty. They nominated students, worked with their students, judged our prelim rounds earlier today, and have done various things to make this event go smoothly as well. So thank you to our Communication Studies faculty. I can say with absolutely no bias that we have the best department on campus. Yeah, thank you. We'd also like to thank, and he's here somewhere, our dean, Dr. Brian Shaver, there he is, for his support in making it possible when we resurrected this after COVID. He's made it possible for us to host this event every semester. His dedication to our students and creating opportunities for them is truly appreciated, so thank you, Brian. An event on campus like this touches many departments, and we have amazing staff here, and so I'm so thankful for the scheduling office, multimedia services, video services, document services, strategic communications, and catering for their contributions in making tonight successful. Thank you, and let's give them all a round of applause. We'd also like to give a very special thank you to the Johnson County Community College Foundation. Their incredible generosity has helped us and enabled us to more than double the scholarship amounts that we are able to give tonight. So we are very excited for that, so thank you to the foundation. Students, if you competed in the semifinals earlier today, would you please stand? You 5 definitely are. Okay, awesome. Amazing. We are so proud of you, and we are excited to listen to these 5 presentations tonight. We are honored to have an exceptional final round panel with us this evening, each of whom is a tremendous supporter of students. There is a little bio about all of them in our program, which you can read more about. As I say your name, if you'd give a little wave, we have Chris Gray, our Vice President of Strategic Communications and Marketing here at Johnson County Community College. We have Deb Mixka, the First Lady of Johnson County Community College, and a very experienced speech and debate judge. She is very on top of things. And then we have Dr. Tony Mixa, our current president of Johnson County Community College. So thank you for serving as judges tonight. We appreciate your time, expertise, and the very difficult task that you have ahead. At this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mixa, who's going to offer a few remarks to our students before their presentations tonight.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words. This is an event that's kind of really personal for myself and Deb. We had both a son and a daughter who were in speech and debate, and we went to many tournaments, and we did a lot of judging along the way. So this is something that we take very seriously. So it's really exciting to be here and kind of be back in the mix. Well, at least I believe that. I'm not sure how Deb feels with the pressure that's on her tonight. But honestly, first off, congratulations to all those that competed today. and especially to our 5 finalists. You know, this is one of those skills, and I think you said working on your speaking skills or your presentation skills. This is one of those skills that is going to take you so far in life. I think back to our son and daughter now. This is a time to brag just a little bit, but one of the things I do know about both of them, they do a wonderful job being in front of people, presenting, and really being there, and that is really that came from a lot of the work that they did in speech and debate when they were doing their thing. So this is something that's great for you. This is a skill that you're going to take and you're going to use in the world wherever you go, and it's something that's really much needed in today's society. So good luck tonight to all our finalists, and congratulations to all those who competed. Look forward to hearing your presentations. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Mixa, for those words. You're in for a real treat tonight. I can't wait to hear these 5 presentations. Our judges definitely have a challenging task ahead, while the rest of us get to sit back, relax, and enjoy these outstanding presentations. So it is now my pleasure to turn over the program to Kayla Todd, who will be introducing our student speakers for the evening. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. Before I pull up the first speaker, I would just like to extend a thank you to our chair, Dr. Terry Easley-Giraldo. She does way more work than any of us to make this event happen, so thank you, Terry. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who is Lance Carter.
I'd like to begin today with a little activity, if I could, and I need help from 2 different people. So could I have the president and his wife help me out for this? I need you to think of a single-digit number, just a single-digit number. Can you do that? What number are you thinking of? 3. What number are you thinking of? 7. Do you want to go 37 or 73? 73. I was worried that we were going to get 6-7 because I know that's popular now, but I'm glad that we've got 73. Everybody remember 73. That's going to be important later. Now I want to tell you the story of the Amazing Randy. The Amazing Randy was a magician, and in the 1960s he posed a challenge to all psychics that it was a $1 million challenge, and he said he would give $1 million to anybody who could prove under scientific conditions that they had any sort of psychic or supernatural abilities. And for 50 years, not a single person was able to claim this reward. Now think about that for a minute. For 51 years, not a single person was able to prove the thing that they told people every single day that they could do, that they made their entire living off of. Not a single person could prove that they could do that for $1 million. I, like the Amazing Randy, am a magician as well. And I hate psychics. I despise them because they're fakes, they're frauds, and they use the same principles that magicians do, but they do it to deceive you and to scam you and get money from you. The Amazing Randy, he spent 50 years of his life trying to disprove any psychics or any claims that they say they have. And for the next 5 to 8 minutes, I'm going to try to persuade you that these people don't have any powers that they say they do. The first thing we need to do, though, is talk about the difference between mentalism and psychics. Now, mentalism is a type of magic. It is a type of mind-reading magic. Mentalists are people like Darren Brown, David Blaine, David Copperfield. These are entertainers that you go pay money to see, and you know that what you're seeing is not real. They come out and tell you that what they're doing is not real. Psychics, on the other hand, try to sell some sort of service to you, and they're going to sell a service like that you're going to be able to talk to your deceased relatives, or they're going to say they're going to be able to tell your future, or they're going to be able to give you advice on what to do, or they're going to be able to heal you in some way. These are all things that psychics claim to be able to do, and of course they can't actually do this. Some examples of popular psychics, let's talk about them. Peter Popoff is number 1. Now, he was very popular as a faith healer, and people will come to him, people with different illnesses and different ailments, and he would walk around the theater and he would look at you and he would look in your eyes and say, I know that you're suffering from lung cancer, and I'm going to heal you with this. And it was something that there was no way he could have known this just by looking at the person, but he would get it right every single time. And the trick that he was doing was these people would fill out prayer request forms every time before they went into the theater. His wife would take all these cards, go backstage, and talk to him through an earpiece saying, this person in this seat has this wrong with them, this person in this seat has this. And so he would be able to go out and get it right every single time. And the way they figured this out was the Amazing Randy, who we talked about earlier. He had a little radio device that had different frequencies he could tune into. And he tuned into the frequency that this wife was talking through the earpiece, and he was able to hear what she was saying and publicly expose him as being a fraud. The next one is Uri Geller. Now, Uri Geller, you can't talk about psychics without talking about Uri Geller because he's probably the most famous one. In the 1970s, he was on talk shows all the time, and he was doing things. His claim to fame was that he could bend spoons with his mind. He could bend metal with his mind. And he had telekinetic powers that he could move things just by thinking about it. Now, he didn't actually have these abilities. He was just doing simple magic parlor tricks, and he was actually James Randi's arch nemesis. And for years and years, they were battling. And James Randi hated him so much, he wrote several books explaining how he did every single one of his effects. Now, the thing about Uri Geller is I think his story alone is enough to persuade you into not believing any of these con artists, because Uri Geller was supposed to be the #1 con artist, right? And every single thing he did was exposed by a magician. So think of all the smaller running con artists. What does that say about them? Now, let's talk about these con artists for just a second, because there are a lot of them, and they have serious negative impacts on our society. For example, according to an archived press release from the U.S. Office of Public Affairs, in 2024, a Canadian con artist was running a psychic mail scheme where he made $175 million over 10 years, $175 million. That's an insane amount of money. Additionally, according to a newsflash from Montgomery County in Pennsylvania, a couple was supposedly removing curses from people, and they made $600,000 on this scheme. And to be honest, these are just the two most recent things that I could find. There are hundreds of other cases like this. According to IBIS World, a research group that studies different industries worldwide, over the past 5 years, a whopping $2.3 billion has been made on psychic services in the United States alone. $2.3 billion has been made from people just pretending, just making believe for 30 minutes, and we've given them $2.3 billion. But besides that, it's not just the financial impact, it's also the mental health impact and the physical impact as well. For example, according to Stefan Walters, a British therapist and member of the British Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy, being scammed can lead people to reevaluate their internal working model or the belief that they have in themselves to make good decisions and the trust that they have in themselves. And it can also lead them to feeling more paranoid as they go on through the rest of their life. Additionally, according to Melissa Lamar, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at the Rush Medical College, victims of fraud can have increased levels of blood pressure as they go on through the rest of their life. But it's not just the financial impacts, and it's not just the physical impacts. There's a much bigger thing, and the reason that I want to persuade you is simply that what they say that they are doing is not what they're actually doing. They're just lying, right? That is the #1 thing. They say that they can do all of these things, but they really can't. And so for that reason, they're scamming you. And the thing that I really like the least about it, that I really can't get behind, is the fact that they get you when you're at your most vulnerable. Most people go to see a psychic after they've had a deceased relative pass away, and they go to a psychic or a medium because they want to get in contact with this person. And of course the psychic makes them feel good, right? Because of course they're going to, because of course they want them to come back and give them more and more money. Additionally, they'll do other things like they say they're going to remove a curse from you, but in order to do that, you have to come back multiple times and you have to keep paying money. And a common trick that psychics use is this effect called the Barnum effect. It's something that every single one of us in this room has probably experienced at some point. If you've ever gone to a Chinese restaurant and gotten a fortune cookie, and you open it and you read it and you think, this applies to me, that's the Barnum effect. Because obviously it doesn't apply to you. It's written in a tricky way that makes it sound like it could only relate to you, but really it's a blanket statement that relates to anybody that reads it. Now, the difference between psychics and mentalists, as we said, is that mentalists are magicians. They're performing tricks, and psychics are saying that they really have powers that they don't have. And this is causing massive financial harm. It's causing millions of dollars to be wasted every single year. It's hurting our mental health, our physical health, and in general, you shouldn't believe them because it is just a scam. Now, at the beginning of the speech, I asked for a 2-digit number. Does anybody remember what the 2-digit number was? 73. Very good. Thank you. I didn't remember it. But I'll tell you a story. Last night, in complete darkness, I awoke from a dream, and I had this 2-digit number that kept coming back to me. And I woke up in complete darkness, and I scribbled this number down because I thought it might be important later. And I've kept that with me. It's in my pocket here. And it's second. Thank God I remembered that, because, whoa, that would have been bad. Do you want to read the number that's on there for me?
Not to.
See, I'm peeling this open. And what number is that?
73.
73.
Wow.
Now the hardest part about this speech for me was deciding whether or not to reveal the trick. Of course, I've just talked for 6 or 7 minutes about how everything that they do is just a trick, right? So it would make sense to reveal the trick, but I hope that over the course of this speech, I persuaded you that you shouldn't believe them and that it is just a trick. And so I'm going to leave it to you to just have to believe me when I say that it's a trick. Thank you.
All right, it looks like we are just about ready, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our second speaker of the night. And our second speaker of the night is going to be Cass Holdman.
I would like to begin with something that I found absolutely insane when I began my research for this speech. According to a press release from the Ohio Secretary of State office in 2021, 18 elections across Ohio ended in a tie. Of those 18 elections, 12 of them were candidate elections where the winner was decided by a coin flip. The winner was not decided by our population, but rather literally the flip of a coin. The other 6 were ballot elections that resulted in the ballot failing because it required a majority in the affirmative for passage. This issue of local elections being so close in margin and ultimately decided by a small amount of the population is not something that only happens far from here. It happens right here locally. According to the Johnson County Election Results website, in this most recent November election, the Lenexa mayoral race was won with 1,859 votes, but the population of Lenexa, 59,901. Only 5.6% of the population of eligible voters voted for Lenexa's mayor. I've been researching local politics a lot recently, and while trying to stay informed about what's happening in my community, I've realized how many small decisions made locally can have big impacts on our everyday lives. Local politics matter because they have a direct impact on our lives, and they could one day affect our nation. And the low voter turnout means that your vote matters so much more than you may even realize. National elections attract millions of voters, but local elections only get a fraction of that turnout. Now, why is this? Well, local elections are off cycle from national elections most of the time. And many people think that it's not as important to show up to these local elections as it is to show up to the national ones. Research from the University of Chicago shows that the timing of these elections is one of the big reasons for the low voter turnout. Many people also think their vote does not matter very much. They think, I'm just one vote, that can't mean much in the grand scheme of things. But as we've seen, sometimes just a few votes can make the biggest of differences. An article from Democracy NC states that in 2015, across North Carolina, there were 69 different cities where the mayor or town council member won their position by 5 or fewer votes. That's 5 people showing up to vote. That could have swung that. People think that these local elections don't matter as much as the national ones, but that is not true. These elections impact our everyday lives. Our local government controls things like zoning laws and land use regulations, which directly affect the affordability and availability of housing. A Yale Law School article written by David Schleicher states that these laws decide where businesses can operate and what businesses are allowed to operate. This directly affects if some families can find housing that they can afford. The local government also decides on things like how often our roads are going to get fixed and how expensive your water services are going to be. Much of what you pay in taxes also goes back to your local community, and the officials there are the ones who decide exactly where this money gets put to use. Not only do these local politics affect us personally, but one day they could affect our nation as well. Many local laws end up influencing national ones. ChangeLab Solution wrote an article on March 26, 2018, explaining how cities and counties experiment with regulations, and these can inspire broader and sometimes national legislation when proven successful. So to recap, we've talked about the overwhelming power that just one single vote can hold. We've talked about the impact that these policies can have on our everyday lives and the impact that they could have on our nation one day. So I'd like to leave you with this thought. Wellsville, Kansas is only 28 miles from where we are today. and has about 2,000 residents. They had 3 school board positions up for election in this most recent November election, just about a month ago. The first candidate, Jason Townsend, ran completely unopposed and won with only 2 votes. The second candidate, Amanda Donovan, beat Paul Manny 1 vote to 0. The third candidate, Lindsay Wood, defeated Sandra Sansclair and Kelly Leibgold 2 votes to 0. Think about the absurdity for this a second. At least 3 of those 6 candidates didn't even show up to vote for themselves. The max turnout in this election was 1% of 1% of the total population. A candidate can win an election if only the eligible voters in their family show up to vote. And in this case, it sure seems none of the people in their family cared enough to show up to vote for them. I'm asking for effort and just a little bit of your time. I know it's hard to seem like these elections matter sometimes, but they do matter, and they need to become more important in our lives. Before I leave, I would like to introduce you to Murphy. Murphy won the Kansas City Star newspaper for the Kansas City Cutest Dog of the Year. He received 5,700 votes. Wanda Brownlee Page received more votes than any other candidate in the Kansas City's school board election. She got 4,898 votes. In the same city, Kansas City, 800 more people voted for the cutest dog than for the candidate with the most votes in the school board election. What we are doing here tonight, these speeches, this is all important. This is important to us as students, and what you guys are doing judging this is very important as well. But your vote in this showcase should not matter more than a vote at a school board election in Wellsville, Kansas, and that is what I think we need to change. Thank you.
All right, it looks like we are just about ready for our next speaker. So we are going to introduce our third speaker of the night, Stephen Luffman.
I stand upon my desk to remind myself that we should constantly look at things in a different way. See, the world looks very different from up here. Just when you think you know something, you have to look at it in another way. Even if it may seem silly or feel wrong, you have to try. Some of you here may recognize this quote. It's from Robin Williams in The Dead Poets Society. For this speech, I ask that you look at the next few minutes in a different way. Even if it may seem a little silly or feel a little wrong, I ask that you try. Try to manage your view of the world for a moment in the way that I have been able to manage my thoughts, my emotions, and my life. Today, I'm going to persuade you to write poetry with 3 points. First, we're going to talk about the plague of mental illness. Second, I want to give you my own experience with poetry. And third, I want to give you some advice on how to start. Yes, this will be persuasive, but not in the traditional persuasive speech manner. Instead, I ask you to join me in experiencing the persuasive power of poetry in action. Now, I know how this is supposed to go. Surely I should address the problem of mental illness with a myriad of graphs and statistics. For example, according to the United States Substance Abuse and Mental Health Organization, in 2025, 23.4% of adults aged 18 or older had any mental illness in the past year. But I doubt that any of you will remember this past the time it takes me to flip to the next slide. So instead, let's try to see how poetry can amplify these statistics. 23.4 is just a number. Until seen representing the adults who often softly ache, toil, and wonder if it's normal to lose your own pulse. 23.4, about 1 in 5. Take a look around you. Which one has lost the light behind their eyes? 23.4% in 2024. Any mental illness is a reason to uproar. We do take action. We are vocal. We pursue therapy and prescribe pills, potentially valuable options for some, but for others it does nothing. Their hope is waiting that tomorrow will bring a brighter day. Yet still, the problem of mental illness prevails. The epidemic prevails. The root of the problem hasn't been addressed. The root of the problem begins in the heart, in our inability to fully express our deepest emotions. I offer you to my experience with poetic expression and its ability to address the source. My bones ache when I'm seldom awake. A warmth clothed in amber was lost in the damper. Toss, turn, my mind wrapped in twine. Limp, lost in heartache and pine. The way these words flow express something deeper than I will ever fully know, yet still I will be here. It's not for vanity, nor anyone's sake. It seems of necessity, my soul's lasting wake. I wrote this at a point when I was feeling isolation. I remember I was with friends, I was watching a movie, yet I still felt alone. This is not a unique experience, it's actually quite common. In a study on about 3,000 people in 2023, the National Library Medicine states, we observed that experiences of loneliness and poor well-being are more likely to co-occur around others than alone. Moments like this are part of the human experience. They're inevitable. But what have we been given within ourselves to combat this? Once again, I propose poetry. In 2022, a study on the psychological function of poetry appreciation from the National Library of Medicine says, it is found that the appreciation of excellent poetry has a certain soothing effect on the mental disorders of patients and has a certain promoting effect on the shaping of positive psychological factors. I know poetry is a tool, and so do these perspectives. I was able to write that poem from earlier to escape my mind and be back in the moment. Poetry is not the unfound answer to all of life, but it is a profoundly useful tool, especially when talking about the mental battles we face. Just as a tool is practical, so too is poetry. Lastly, I want to give you some advice on how to start. Simply, begin by writing. I know this may sound obvious, but it's where we must start. Lay pen to paper and sit with yourself. If you intend to write poetry, it surely will come. I understand that some of you may be hesitant and worried that you can't write the correct kind of poetry, the right kind of poetry. But poetry is not confined to a rubric. Poetry can be 2 lines or it can be 2,000 pages. Brian Evans-Jones, a teacher and an award-winning poet, presents his perspective in this way. In fact, aiming for perfect often takes all the vibrancy and uniqueness out of a draft, as I have often done many times myself. So instead, aim just to write something. Focus on the intention of expression. Again, let me use the tool that I am so adamantly supporting to demonstrate. Need nothing but paper, no prerequisite, a pen and a favor to ask of within. Set aside time, how little or large. Give words to rhyme, or not if you feel. Try the words you've not fully known, for maybe it feels just right on the tongue. Make use of metaphor and simile until your words are dripping like honey. As we are approaching an end, I want to remind you of those 3 points I've covered. The problem of mental illness is overwhelming and abstract in its representation. But through poetry, we have a means of communication that gives us the ability to express beyond our wildest dreams. I have personally felt the power of poetry subdue my iniquities and put into perspective my mental problems. And to begin is simple. Focus on the intention of expression. I want to leave you with one last quote from my favorite movie, and hopefully soon yours, The Dead Poets Society. We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. Be liberated by deep expression. It's right beneath your fingertips. Thank you.
All right, it looks like our judges are ready, so we are going to welcome our fourth speaker of the night. Please welcome Naomi Thellman.
When I was younger, I would get so frustrated whenever my sister would throw away food because, one, it was good food, but also I knew there were people out there who didn't have food. And to this day, I hate wasting food, but even I'm guilty of doing so in my own life. Each and every one of us encounters food waste in our lives. But at the same time, there are people in our community who experience hunger, and the food being wasted affects our environment. I see people throw away perfectly good food all the time, but I've also served those who don't always have access to food, which is why Johnson County Community College should reduce their food wastage. Today I will tell you first about the problem with food waste, next about the causes, and finally about solutions to help minimize food waste. But first, let's get started with the problem. Food, both food scraps and perfectly good food, are being sent to landfills. Landfills that look like this one in Huntsville, Alabama. This is what modern landfills look like, so the ones around our area look very similar to this one. And it's called the Trash Mountain, and that's a very fitting name because that's basically what it is. It looks like a mountain, and it's made out of trash. And this picture comes from Easterling from Huntsville Business Journal on August 4th, 2020. The food being sent to these landfills is affecting the environment. And at the same time food is being wasted, there are people experiencing hunger. People in our community experience hunger, and our environment is being affected by this problem with food waste. According to Recycle Track Systems Copyright 2025, 120 billion pounds of food are wasted every year in the United States, while 35 million people face food insecurity. These numbers reveal a problem. Massive amounts of food are being wasted, while millions of people are experiencing hunger. And those billions of pounds of food are the cause of 58% of landfill methane emissions, according to the EPA on October 6, 2025, which is a greenhouse gas that is very harmful to our atmosphere. So now that I've told you about the problem with food waste, next I will tell you about the causes. While there are many contributions to food waste, today I will tell you how food waste is a product of both a misunderstanding of food label dates and not planning well when purchasing food. According to Todd and DFK from the National Library of Medicine, on July 1st, 2024, food label dates are usually determined by industries as quality indicators. They do not mark food safety thresholds. However, confusion over this leads to waste both at the consumer and retail levels. Perfectly good food gets thrown away because of these dates. Another cause of food waste is that people don't plan well when buying food. According to Clement et al. From the National Library of Medicine on June 30th, 2023, students aged 19 to 26 often waste more food than those over the age of 27 due to impulsive food purchasing and shopping without a list prepared in advance. These things lead to an excess amount of food that can't be consumed and ends up getting thrown away. But not only is it too much food, it's a lack of knowledge of what to do with leftovers. So more often than not, those leftovers get thrown away as well. Now that I've told you about the causes, next I'll tell you about solutions. Johnson County Community College should reduce their food waste. We, as part of this college, can be more intentional about the quantity of food we are buying. According to Kansas State University on July 22nd, 2024, the most preferred way to mitigate food waste is to prevent wasted food. This seems obvious, but if we make better choices about the food we buy, we can reduce the amount of food being thrown away. This diagram from the National Library of Medicine on July 1st, 2024 shows a food recovery hierarchy, from the most preferred ways to deal with food waste to the least preferred. And at the top is source reduction, which I just talked about, being more intentional about the food we buy. Next is feeding hungry people, which I will talk about, and then feeding animals, industrial uses, composting, and then what we are trying to avoid is sending food to landfills. On a bigger scale, Johnson County Community College should partner with food pantries to donate their leftover food. The partnership that the Olathe Public Schools have with Project Starfish, a nonprofit organization, models what this program would look like. According to Starfish Project Foundation, copyright 2025, the Olathe schools donate their leftover food from their Hot Meals lunch program to Project Starfish, who then gives that food to people in need in the community that very same day. This program meets the needs of not only the hungry, but also the need to reduce the amount of food being sent to landfills. But where food waste is unavoidable, Johnson County Community College should provide more places to discard food for composting. According to the JCCC sustainability page, copyright 2025, the college has a composting program here on campus. So if the college were to put a larger emphasis on this program, we could again reduce the amount of food being sent to landfills. In conclusion, Johnson County Community College should reduce their food waste. Today, I first told you about the problem with food waste and how it affects not only the hungry, but also the environment. Next, I told you about the causes by talking about misunderstanding of food label dates and not planning well when buying food. And finally, I told you about solutions and how Johnson County Community College can partner with food pantries and emphasize their composting program and how we can be more intentional about the food we buy. So as we go throughout our days, let's acknowledge that getting frustrated, like I did with my sister, is not going to solve the problem. But instead, I hope you take action in doing your part to reduce food waste and make a difference in this community. Thank you.
All right, it is time for us to welcome our final speaker of the night, Sophia Griggs.
It's finals week coming up. We have a lot on our plates. Whether it's us trying to finish all of our schoolwork or we have deadlines to meet, papers to grade, there's a lot of it. On top of this, winter's coming up. The days are getting shorter, nights are coming early, and now we just feel dreary. We can't avoid this stress or overwhelming feeling, lethargicness, and the feelings of just blah. I know I've been there. I felt this even preparing for this speech. I want you to raise your hand if you, in the past 2 weeks, have felt these feelings before as well. I mean, we have a lot going on in our lives. I imagine it's all of our hands. Well, keep your hands up, because in just a second, I'll ask you to put them down. When I say the number of hours of sleep you typically get on a regular work or school night, put them down. So put your hands down if you normally get 1 hour of sleep, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. I think I maybe saw 2 hands still up at 8, so good job, thank you. But this right here, seeing all of our hands go down, along with the research I've done, the life I've lived, as well as discussions I've had with other people, are the reason I believe that our failure to get 8 hours of sleep every night might be the reason we have those feelings. Because sleep deprivation only makes our path to achieving our goals harder. If you want to perform better, you need to have healthy habits. And the truth is, the best habit you can make for yourself starts tonight. I want to persuade you to prioritize sleep because it will become the foundation of your happiness, health, and future successes to come. Firstly, I want to dive into how sleep deprivation exactly affects us. And according to the Cleveland Clinic, one of the nation's top nonprofit academic medical centers, they say sleep deprivation will impair our ability to retain information or concentrate. It essentially makes it difficult for us to learn. So I want to tell a story about my dad, who's here with me today, and he told me that when he was in college, he had spent 40 hours studying for an exam coming up, just awake, studying. Early Thursday morning, he took the exam. Right afterwards, he just crashed, fell straight asleep, and in the evening, he woke up, had dinner with his friends, and they were asking him, "Hey, where have you been?" Goes, "Oh, I've been studying, I've been busy." And they go, "Okay, yeah, that was yesterday. Where have you been since?" That's when he realized he slept the rest of Thursday, the majority of Friday, and woke up Friday evening to have dinner. That's over 24 hours of sleeping. And it's a funny story, yeah, but if that was you and you had stuff to get done, imagine the stress and pile of work you'd have to complete later. Other than this, something we might see most often is when we put something away in a cabinet and maybe a couple hours later we open it up and find that we just put our milk in there. That's how our brain works when we're sleep deprived. In extreme cases, people have reported hallucinations or even hearing voices, which can be really scary. That's very concerning. But why am I telling all of you these? Well, I wanted to bring to light that sleep deprivation is everywhere. We're seeing it with everyone. It's become an epidemic. According to the National Institutions of Health, or NIH, the US government's leading medical research agency, they say that 70% of college students will get less than 8 hours of sleep. And now, take a second to look around you, because 4 of those 5 people will say that they have had the loss of sleep negatively impact their academic performances. It's unfortunate how common this is, but I believe in you that we can fix this. So I want to inspire you in this next part, and I want to share all the facts, all the statistics, that how we function when we are well rested. This is a graph by MIT Libraries, a library supporting leading science institutions, and it shows the correlation that the more sleep you get, the higher your grades will be. This is a graph by Science Direct, one of the largest peer-reviewed scientific databases. And in the first one, it shows that between of getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep, your psychological distress is at its lowest. Secondly, it shows that between 8 to 9 hours of sleep, your satisfaction in life is at its highest. If this hasn't convinced you already, NIH has already said that your body takes sleep as your time to heal. You recover from soreness. It also helps you prevent future and stop diseases. But I get it, we're busy, we have lives, things to get to. And spending time to get more sleep seems like it's going to run into our time to get things done. But what if I told you that it might actually save you time? Because in this graph from Progress Nutrition, a peer-reviewed science journal, it shows that the more sleepy you are, the more likely you are to make more errors. That means you have to go back and fix those mistakes, costing you more time. So, sleeping more, ironically, can save you time because our well-rested selves will get stuff done quicker, but most importantly, with better quality. Since sleeping enough shows us to improve our well-being, where can we even start? Because let's be honest, we've heard these things before. We know we need sleep, but it's difficult to start healthy habits. Incorporating sleep into your schedule will become life-changing. Trust me, I've been there, I've done that. My sophomore year of high school was when I got the worst sleep ever. I'd be up till 3 a.m. doing homework, up again at 5:30 to finish the rest, go to school, soccer, have a job. I realized then I felt like I was in an unbreakable cycle. And my grades had dropped, my mood was so bad. That summer, I decided to change something. That junior year, I would start getting all 8 hours of sleep. And since then, my grades have improved, my mood has gotten better, my social life got better as well. So make the change with me. Start tonight. And I get it if you don't trust me enough to start now because finals are coming up, but at least start during break. Make that promise to yourself. What I want you to do when you're here or at home tonight, when you get that initial thought of, oh, it's getting late, I think I should go to bed, do it. Go to your room, take a couple minutes, get ready for bed in your pajamas, shut off the light, go to bed, close your eyes and let yourself relax. Because when that becomes a habit, it will help you in the long run. You'll feel it, you'll see it. So I challenge you, prioritize sleep as much as anything else important to you, because it'll help you do better in those areas as well. Stop treating sleep as an option and instead as a necessity, like it's supposed to be. If not now, when will you start? To conclude, my goal was to remind you that sleep is an epidemic. Sleep deprivation is an epidemic. Those stories I told you were supposed to show you how inconvenient and common it is. Like food and water, we rely on sleep to survive. Just in sleep, we need to as well, and to get our full 8 hours, because it improves not only our health, but every future success to come. So don't forget to start. Finally, I started this speech using a really classic introduction of raising your hand. So just one more time, I want to end with one last cliche. Close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath and let yourself fall asleep. Thank you, and good night, literally.
And with that, we are now going to begin by announcing, we're going to start by announcing finalists, which is 4th and 5th place, and we don't differentiate between them. So, receiving a $200 scholarship as a finalist, we have Naomi Feldman, who was nominated and Naomi was nominated by Professor Holly Manning. Our next finalist was nominated by Professor Justin Stanley, but that doesn't tell anybody any information because our remaining 4 were all nominated by Professor Justin Stanley. I bet you didn't know you were attending the Justin Stanley show tonight, but no worries because he's going on sabbatical in the spring, so I will have a student up here in the spring. All right. Finalist receiving $200, we have Lance Carter. In 3rd place, receiving a $400 scholarship, we have Cass Holdman. And then there were 2. In 2nd place, this year receiving a $700 scholarship, which is, yes, thank you, Foundation. These are incredible scholarship amounts. In 2nd place, Sophia Griggs. Which means that the winner of the Fall 2025 Dick Stine Showcase is Stephen Luffman. You're winning a $1,000 scholarship. Let's give a final round of applause to all of our semifinalists and finalists and our judges for tonight. Thank you all so much. Have a good rest of your evening.